Yeah, yeah. Guess who came back with a large fucking fist to eat the Brooklyn blast furnace? I brought your ugly bitch with me. Your shit is sus. Ain't nobody trying to hear you talk. When Jimmy's on the mic, they take your whack shit and turn it off. It's real life, not them stories that you won't say. He made it out alive, and he's relatively unscathed. So subscribe to the podcast and share the post and tell your stupid friends to do the same. You heard it here from Coast.
Another episode of the Brooklyn Blast Furnace podcast. With me this evening, my man, Don Capria, who is a writer, a producer, director, musician, an artist manager. You have your hands on a lot of things. Super busy, bro. The author of Colombo, The Unsolved Murder. He is the founder and owner of 110 Artist Management and OneTenCrew Films, and I'll bring it all the way back. He was the drummer in a band called Blindside way back in the 90s, who I actually seen like several times, just being at shows all the time in the 90s. Also Skarhead. I can't even begin to name all the music videos, but one that you've done, one definitely sticks out in my head is, we can curse here, is Drink Fucking Fight, the fucking Skarhead video, which I was there during that whole shoot. I watched that all go down at the Black and Blue Bowl. When was that, like 2008 maybe?
Yeah, 2008, 2009-ish, right around there.
What was that spot? Was that Studio B on Banker Street?
It was. Yeah, in Greenpoint.
Yeah,
yep.
Man.
Weird
had spot that with the whole top, like,
balcony.
Yeah, they took
it had that whole upstairs, which was kind of the green room.
Yes.
For all of the bands, which, when you have a festival like that, it's really cool to have this like expanded green room. And it just, it was this full bar, lots of like lounge areas, and there was no roof on the joint. So you're literally at that green room, and you could see it a little bit in the music video. You could see Manhattan, like you just look out the window and you could see Manhattan across the East River.
Yeah, definitely a cool spot. Couple of Black and Blue Bowls there, maybe two or three of them. And then I think it went back into Manhattan. But now, you've made several films, but the main reason why we're here talking is the film that just dropped. And I'm a huge horror fan. I grew up on it I'm 49 years old, so I grew up with the mom and pop VHS stores and all the slasher movies and everything like that. So I could talk about that stuff forever. But the new movie, director's cut, which is ridiculous. I'm not going to get into it, the verbatim exactly what goes on. I mean, that would just be stupid.
Yeah, spoilers. No spoilers.
No spoilers. I will touch on a couple of things that will not spoil anything. But Louis Lombardi is awesome. I mean, I know him I just recently got done. I know I'm a little bit late to the game, but I just recently got done finishing Gravesend.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's in that for several episodes. But, I mean, I knew him. I mean, he had smaller and bigger parts in, like, some of my favorite movies ever. Like, The Usual Suspects, Suicide Kings, and Wonderland, which is a criminally slept-on movie, I think. Ridiculous. Obviously, The Sopranos and Ed Wood, and he's been in a million things. And what a creepy bastard in this movie, bro.
Yeah.
So good, man.
Yeah, he brought the creep. Yeah, he had, I mean, if we're jumping right into it, Louis was someone that I wrote for. I knew Louis for years. He's a Bronx guy. I'm a Westchester guy, and you know how close the Bronx and Westchester are to one another. His cousin is I befriended his cousin and really cool dude. And he ended up moving to Westchester. So when I was going out to LA for music based stuff, he was like, "You got to hook up with my cousin. He's an actor and he's out there and he's killing it." And I knew who he was before he said, So I went out to LA, one of my first trips, and Louis was just like this really, gregarious, awesome human being that like was like, yeah, let's hang, or yeah, that's that. So yeah, call me. And he give you your phone number, and it wasn't like weird Hollywood,
Yeah, he
that's how
seems
it
like
is out
he's a
there.
regular, normal, cool guy.
Yeah, you see him in the street, you go up to him and you could just start having a conversation with him. There's no he's and for me, that is really parallel to how the hardcore music scene is, where like there's not this like, VIP, don't come near me, I'm a singer in a band, rock star kind of thing. Like no, hardcore kids that are playing in bands and are frontmen in successful bands, they're very approachable.
Yeah,
And I love that about Lou because he was out in Hollywood and there was a lot of people I would meet and they wouldn't give you your phone number. They wouldn't give you even their email address or something, because they're just like they're letting you know they're on another level above you. So for years, I would ask this guy advice, as being an aspiring writer director. At that point, I probably hadn't really shot in anything but a couple shorts and some music videos. But I always wanted to get into filmmaking. And anytime that I was going to approach something that was narrative and scripted, I'd call him up, be like, "Hey, I want to do something." And I never really had roles for him, but then when this came about, I was like, "Man, I really think that this guy can murder the role." Yeah,
yeah,
pun
man.
intended.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you first meet him, I'm watching it and I'm just like, he gave me a feeling, bro. And I'm not just saying that. I'm just like, because obviously I'm putting myself into these band members' shoes and the
Yeah,
whole thing. I'm trying to put myself in their place, and I'm just like, right off the bat, I'd be like, yo, this dude, man, like there's something wrong. You know what I mean? But he was super convincing as a creepy guy. Like nice in the beginning and then automatically creepy and then fucking, then it's just
yeah.
off the rails. But Mr. Director, very cool, man. Very was there something that like because I can't place him or compare him to like any other character in like a horror movie that I've ever seen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, so the inspiration it's kind of comes from a whole bunch of different places as I'm writing it.
Right.
Um, and so, it's not a spoiler, but yeah, he's the killer in the film. Just like you go to see a Friday the 13th movie, Jason's gonna kill kids. So,
That's my franchise, by the
it,
way. Go on.
I love Friday. Mine. I don't even know if it's franchise, but the first two Halloweens I think are the greatest first and second movie made. Next to that, I go for Scream because I'm just Wes Craven really crushed the first one and the second one.
Sure.
I even like the third one. I'm like one of these. I like them all, but whatever. So anyway, when I was writing this one, the story. You have to think about your killer, right? You're like, well, how's my killer unique and how's he different? And why would I even make this move? Why is it worth watching? And that's what it was like, well, I want to really develop this guy, this killer. So I started developing him and I pulled everything from like, and it was funny because it was two things that I told him at first before we really dove into the character, but it was like Uncle Buck and
Oh
then
shit. Okay.
John Wayne Gacy, you know. Uh,
Sick.
so it was like because he had to, there's this necessity of being inviting and charismatic, and he struggles with that as a character, not as an actor. But
Right.
he's so psychotic, and that he struggles with it, and he thinks he's being, but he's actually creepy. So like, as you're
Very
watching the
creepy.
scene in the beginning at the library, no one's in on it with him, right? Like they all don't, he doesn't get it that they all don't really like him.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the first thing was Uncle Buck and John Wayne Gacy.
That's a crazy little like little combination there. I didn't
Yeah.
think you were gonna say Uncle Buck at all, but that's brilliant.
Well, we wanted to, we played around with that laugh a little bit because we wanted to make sure that he was like awkwardly funny and awkwardly interested in his own jokes. I think he took a page out of Jack Torrance's character from The Shining.
Sure.
And I think he was really into that. And that's some of the stuff doesn't happen till you get on set. And then there's an area where you guys really start cooking because it's all words on paper, right? And if he's not acting it out in the mirror, and I don't know if he was, but potentially if he's not acting it out in the mirror and looking at it and trying it again and again, well, then the magic's got to happen when you have an audience, right? Like
Sure.
theater. So on set, we were really playing around with some of that Jack Torrance stuff and the essence of like, his psychotic reaction to what he's seeing. And I think what
I
I'm
know.
talking about when I say that.
Yes.
So that was something that I really wanted to make sure that people they understood him by how he viewed things, you
Right.
know.
Yeah, it's super fun because it's I love because like I said, I'm 49 and I grew up in the age of practical effects. Like honestly, besides being like a toddler and loving dinosaurs like every other little kid my age used to do, you know, my idol was Tom Savini.
Oh, yeah.
Like I still have like I wound up selling my entire Fangoria magazine collection years and years ago, and then I kicked myself in the ass, and I wound up buying them all back again. But I never forget. Yeah, I have a whole bunch now. My records, I'm buying everything back again. But and everything's 10 times more expensive. It's like, fuck. But there's one. I don't remember exactly what issue it is, but it says Savini is back, and it was the whole promo for Friday the 13th Final Chapter,
Mm.
and it's so I met Savini a few times, but I remember looking through that magazine, and as a little kid, I was like maybe 8. I'm like, that's what I want to be like when I grow up. Is like I want to do this shit. So
Yeah, I mean he's the
yeah, like
he's the
ridiculous.
legend, man. I mean, from Dawn of the Dead and then Friday the 13th and he even I watch so much. I try to take in as much behind the scenes documentaries and stories and even if they're just like anecdotal reading them or whatever. But there was this really cool series on Netflix called The Movies That Made Us. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but
Yeah, sure, absolutely,
yes,
absolutely.
they had the last drop was all horror. So it did like Friday the 13th. It
Yeah,
did I think it did Halloween. It did like
Nightmare on Elm Street, I
Alien.
think.
It did Nightmare on Elm. Yeah, so the Savini was in it and they're talking about, like even the fight on the beach between the mom and the camp counselor at the end of Friday the 13th and
Yeah,
how he saw them choreographing that scene and there he's like, no, this is whack. Like we got swords, we know how to fight. And like he jumped in and he was just this dude that was like massively passionate about the art and
yeah,
and ready to go to great lengths to make sure that what he was working on was fucking cool. And
yeah.
that's all he worried about, just making it cool. And everything he did is fucking cool. So
Everything.
yeah,
Fuck
you know,
yeah. He's like I met Savini a couple times. You go to horror conventions?
yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I used to go constantly. I kind of dipped out a little bit, but I need to go back, man. Like
Well,
so
Chiller
many.
Theater's happening in April. I'm gonna try to get maybe a table at Chiller Theater in
Why
April.
wouldn't you, bro? That
Yeah,
would be awesome.
we did.
I don't know how hard it would be to get one down at Monster Mania. Monster Mania is giant
Mm.
down in Cherry Hill.
Yeah,
But
yep,
I like Chiller because it's not just it. There's so many different things going on.
yeah.
You know
We
what I
did
mean?
Chiller last year um, on the rollout for the theater release. So when we came out in theaters, it was October. I was on Halloween, and like the month before, we had started off in Chicago at the Horror Film Festival. Then we did Sleepy Hollow. Then we did Bushwick Film Festival, and then we did Chiller Theater the weekend before the film dropped. And then we did the Tattoo Convention here in Westchester right after the film dropped. So now that it's streaming, it's available. We're hoping that a lot of people are going to watch this thing and want to see and meet the killers. So, Babs and Mr. Director are
Fucking
ready and
Babs, bro.
available. Yeah. Yeah. Babs makes an entrance, right?
Babs makes its presence be known for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, all right, well, that's a curveball.
Yeah, I mean,
What's up with Babs?
again, going back to exploring like why are you making this and what's different about this,
Yeah,
I had explored a couple of different so that's kind of based on, Frankenstein, right? Where you have Frankenstein and the helper, right? Igor.
sure.
So, you have Mr. Director and his helper and when I was making attempts at writing, I actually had a draft that I sent over to my producer, and I had this like kind of like biker dude, and he was like, because it'll tie in. So anyway, I wrote director's cut the film to be part of a franchise. It's part of a universe. So currently,
Okay.
we just finished the second script right now, and we're putting the financing together for producer's cut, which is the sequel.
Oh,
But I have an
sick. That's
origin
dope,
story.
man.
Yeah, so origin story on Mr. Director, origin story on Babs, and then future films, producer's cut, final cut, the rough cut, jump cut. We have all these different films that will come out, but um, exploring their characters, I really wanted to make sure that I had a special tie-in. And with the biker guy, it just seemed pedestrian, and I was like, it's not really, it's not gripping. Like he's a badass, and he's he could be cool, and people would be afraid of him. But then when I got the idea for Babs. I just kind of ran with it, and casting Lucy Hart was amazing because she really just jumped in and was like ready to do whatever. Uh,
Yeah.
and, and that was kind of necessary. And I don't want to like let too many cats out the bags. I feel
Right.
there's some surprise to Babs's character when you're watching it for the first time.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'll let people watch and see, but it was such an awesome experience working with Louis and Lucy Hart, because the two of them, they really brought it.
It's ridiculous. Where did you find this? The setting is awesome. Like I actually put it down so I didn't forget. The overhead drone shots like over the bridge. Like I thought that was because I'm a nerd like that, as probably you obviously you are too. Like cinematography and the way things are shot and stuff like that. It was just like wow, like that was a super dope shot. And then the actual spot where you found to do the majority of the movie.
Yeah, so like 85% of the film, close to it, is shot in this one location, right in Yonkers, New York. So
Okay.
the film is based on a Long Island band. They're from Long Island, and they get hit up by a director. For those that don't know, they get hit up by a director to shoot a music video for free, and he lures them out to this facility in Pennsylvania, where they're not going to ever make it home.
Yeah.
So the cheating, what actually happened, and to dial it back, I started this movie from like a real incident. I was shooting a music video for Concrete Dream out in the
Okay.
woods of Pennsylvania during COVID when no one was really doing anything.
Sure.
And COVID times were different times. You drove, things were different, walking slow, everyone's got a mask on. It was just such like an isolated time, right?
Absolutely.
And we go out to bumfuck Pennsylvania, and we shoot in this abandoned school. And like, I'm just sitting there and I'm like, man, let me check that door right there and make sure that shit's locked. Because if some dudes come walking up into this building right now,
Yeah.
we're getting robbed for everything. And I was with one of my brothers, I was with Drago, and I'm like, me and Drago will fight back, but if they come in here, they're probably going to kill us if we fight back, and then we'll
Right.
be dead, and no one's going to find us for weeks. So that's when the whole idea for kids getting, even me as an adult getting involved in a situation, like you don't know where the fuck you are, and you
Right.
don't know what your surroundings are, and you're not
Right.
prepared if something goes down. So I started scripting this story about these young kids and this director, and just kind of challenging what an artist would do. And that comes from, my one being an artist, two being a music manager, and for so many years trying to teach artists to be careful about signing the wrong contract, who you're getting into bed with, who you're taking pictures with, what girl you're letting back at your hotel room. So
Uh,
you try to teach
all the
the
things people don't really think about.
no, all the things they don't think about. I'll tell you what, I managed Danny for 15 years. He never thought about any of it. So with that, I create Mr. Director, who is this character, this villain in the movie, so to speak, but he's also a metaphor for the music business. Because if you get involved with the wrong people in this music business, you could be giving your life away. And for
Sure.
them, it is truly fatality. So the story came from a real place. It wasn't just I'm going to write a movie about a bunch of people getting killed.
Right.
There's so much going. I don't want to call it what everyone they coined that phrase. What is it? The new horror, elevated horror.
Oh,
I'm not trying to be artsy fartsy, but I
right.
also wanted to make sure that there was a real story built in there because I come from the music scene. So when a
Sure.
dude in the music scene sees this movie,
Yeah.
I want them to feel like, man, this guy knows the music scene,
Yeah.
and yes, a band would keep pushing forward for that shot of fame because
Yeah.
if you know broke kids from Long Island like I do, if they're out there, they're that far, they're gonna go for it, they're gonna push the limits to try to make it happen.
Yeah, man. It's an original. It's a unique thing. It's something that's never been done, which is, I mean, every idea has been rehashed 95,000 times. So it's
Yeah.
like a unique, obviously. And when the movie first starts, I look at little details and I find like the little Easter eggs. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So I'm noticing like the Skarhead poster and the Diablo Fest poster and the MQ stickers and the
Yeah.
Scandal stickers. Yeah, so and all the Omerta stuff and the stuff, all that stuff. I'm just like, okay, this has like if like but like this has the Don Capria stamp all over it.
Yeah, yeah,
Those little decorations.
you work with the production. I had a production designer, and as we're sitting down, I kind of told him, I was like, look, I'll give you a mood board for everything, but all those stickers that are in that movie, they're all mine. Like I have a box of stickers that I've been
Yeah,
collecting my whole life,
yeah,
and he may have run with it and took some that I didn't want him to touch, and I'm like, it was funny because like I have some stickers that I've saved for like 15 years, 20
yeah.
years.
I do too. I collect a lot of shit too.
So
Yeah.
so I saw a couple of them. I'm like, oh man, he used that sticker. Fuck.
I
But
only had one. They don't make it
yeah,
no
and then it's
more. No
over
one else
now.
has it. Yeah.
Yep. And then some he put on upside down. I'm like, oh, this guy. But he did a really good job of like taking, the band hangout where they jam in the garage.
Yeah.
Just taking that space and all the old flyers from all the old shows from New York and everything. So, because the movie, while it's set and it's contemporary, these kids are modern kids. I kind of wanted them to feel like younger brothers to kids from the hardcore scene that are our age.
Yeah.
And like, the style of music that they do, we'll call it punk, but it's really emo.
It is.
The sound for the band. So they're not hardcore kids per se, but they grew up as descendants of the post-hardcore scene.
Gotcha. Makes complete sense, dude. Makes complete sense. Did you That's like I said, because I don't want to accidentally just keep on going, like, and
Yeah.
or else it's like, we're telling the whole fucking movie, which
Mhm.
I would be down to do that, but obviously for obvious reasons I'm not doing that. But is there? I'm gonna ask you the stupid hacky interview question, but is there like who is like your director? Like your like all-time top director that's like basically like, yo, I want to do shit like this guy. Not necessarily his style, but do
Yeah,
this.
I mean, you have a couple different favorites, but I think, you know, my favorite living director right now that's out there working is Denis Villeneuve, who's
Hmm.
Sicario, Prisoners, Arrival, Dune Part Two, Blade Runner
Okay.
2049. Um, this guy, like ever since I saw Prisoners, um, I was just like, this fucking guy is everything.
Yeah.
And that movie didn't get any nods from the Academy, and he's a French Canadian. And I thought, wow, like this fucking movie is one of the best suspense thrillers I've seen since Silence of the Lambs, and
Yeah.
nobody's talking about it. And I was like, okay, cool. And then he followed up with Sicario. And I watched Sicario and I'm like, this is the best action crime movie I've seen since a Scorsese film 20 years ago. And again, no nods, no nothing. And then he did Arrival, and I'm like, this is the best alien movie I've
I've
ever
never
seen.
seen it. I never seen Arrival.
So Arrival for me, and the reason why it's my favorite alien movie is it was finally
Really?
it was
That's a
finally
bold statement, bro.
yeah, I mean, I next to the thing. Like the thing is really superior. Like John Carpenter is probably my favorite horror director if it comes down to the bones. He's
Right.
my favorite horror director next to um Wes Craven. But the the thing is it's just a monster of its own. I love Alien, I love Aliens, I love these
Sure.
movies. They're actually superior. And they also speak to what I'm about to say about Arrival, which is they did not and I see it so many times where there's like they make an alien movie and here's this superior life form, right? And we go through a whole movie of fun and games and this and that and traps and getting out of the traps, and at the end it's like, oh, all we got to do is, pour water on its head and it dies. Like,
That was Signs. Yep.
yeah, like,
Yeah,
so
I was like, what? Like you spray water and it's like, what is that about?
I'm like, these superior beings
Yeah,
travel through dimensions to get all this stuff, and you're telling me all I got to do is like, touch it in the freaking in the titty, and it
yeah,
just
yeah,
integrates.
yeah.
So Arrival really left this like super intelligent explanation for these supreme beings, and they did not make them weak to the American people. They did not make them overpowerful, like just came here to kill. It was just a super intelligent alien movie.
Right.
And I really love the way that he plays his pacing, because I'm a bit of a slow burn guy, and I don't
Sure.
know if that bothered you about my film, where like it
No,
it didn't just jump off. It
no,
was
not at all. It's yeah, I could if something catches my interest right off the bat. First of all, I was interested anyway because I know obviously it's your movie. I know that it's going to be some sort of a slasher crazy movie, so I was already in from the go. So, but if it's something that I'm just really not aware of or whatever, and if it catches my interest or the way it's shot, lighting, certain things, and if it's a slow burn, I'm all in. I shut down everything, mute my phone, I'm in. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, me too.
yeah, like,
Yeah,
what do you think about Ari Aster?
I like Ari Aster. I mean,
Like, did you like Hereditary?
loved Hereditary.
Bro, I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah. He's on another level.
He's on some shit. I don't
He's
know
on
what
some
it
shit.
is,
Yeah.
but like, for instance, you watch Hereditary, brilliant, brilliant movie. One of my favorite, like, I guess, horror movies over the past long time.
Yeah, no, for real. When people ask me what are movies that scare you, Hereditary comes up as
Yeah,
as a movie that there's very very few movies I allow myself to get scared. That's why I love horror
thank
films.
you.
Like I really want that to happen. But when I watched Hereditary, I had never seen an Ari Aster film before
Me
that,
neither.
and I just watched that film and I was like, holy fuck, because it's
Dude.
it's every nuance that he's creating, and the set design and the color treat, and I think about all that kind of stuff as a filmmaker,
Sure.
as I aspire to do those great things too. Obviously we shot director's cut on a shoestring budget, but we still focused a lot on cinematography and set design, and really working with the actors to make sure that they don't have these like deliveries where you're like, that guy can't act.
Right.
He's not believable or whatever.
Right.
And then you get to that upper level, right? And you jump up and you're at that Aster level where you can throw that guy in the ring with all the great directors that are out there because he just gets it immediately. So just throw a ton of money at him and let him do his thing.
Yeah. Yeah. At the end of that movie, I watched it several years back. And like you were saying, like, I'm so desensitized to all the horror movies. And like I said, I've been watching this shit since I'm like 5 years old, 4 years old, probably. Madman, 1981 in the movie theater by myself. You
Nice.
know? Yeah. So desensitized. But at the end of Hereditary, I'm sitting there on the couch, and here go to credits, and I'm sitting there, and I didn't feel right, bro. I don't know what it was.
Yeah,
I
man.
couldn't put my finger on it, but I was like, I just don't feel right. Something's
No.
fucked up here.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's that's what you want to do. You want to
Yeah.
make people feel. Going back to my film with the choice and playing with Babs. When we were in the theater,
Uncomfortable character, bro.
yeah, so that we were in the theater and it was like, I'm reading comments on fucking Letterbox and whatever, and
Yeah.
kids are just like, I don't know why he did this and this and this, and then I'm like, I made you feel uncomfortable, motherfucker, because you're talking about it. And that was the purpose, was to like kind of make people feel a little bit off with everything. And it had a lot to do with, wardrobe choices and so on. So, we were really trying to work out how to make people feel, whether hate it or love it, at least make them feel something, at least make them react to it where it stuck with them for a second, negative or
Right.
positive. Even if it confused them, you're making them think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
It, it, Yeah, so like I said, I could get into it, but you just gotta. It's out now on iTunes and Amazon and shit. But once Babs makes the presence, it's like, all right,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Babs is amazing.
yeah,
Is
Babs is
amazing.
absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Shout out to Babs.
Shout out to Babs and the entire cast because, like you just said, it's like the deliveries. Because I'm watching this and I'm like, these young kids. I don't know who these kids are. You know what I mean? I've never seen these kids before,
Yeah.
and I'm like, these kids can act. Like, there's not like, oh, like, it's kind of shitty acting. It's not like that. Which
No,
I was
yeah.
actually genuinely happy to see that because it's a legitimate movie, and I didn't know. Well, why would I know that it's like it's going to be like a whole thing? Producer's cut is next,
That's it.
which is
Yeah.
dope, which is fucking super cool, man.
Producers cut on deck. Yeah.
On deck.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, listen, I wish you nothing but fucking success with this shit, and like I said, I was all in, bro. But
Awesome.
let's switch gears a little bit.
Hmm.
Let's go into the early '90s hardcore scene and what got you into this insane underground culture that we're all involved in for fucking decades at this point. I look around the room and there's nobody normal, including myself, for a very long time. But it's
Yeah.
awesome at the same time. And
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, let's be honest, it's the lowest hanging fruit on the tree. The hardcore scene, right? So,
it's so good.
um, it's achievable, right? But no, I think um obviously the sound is the first thing that attracts you. You either it's so polarizing. You either
Yes.
hear that shit and you're like, what the fuck is that? Or you hear that shit and you're like, oh shit, what the fuck is that? So I was of the latter, where I was like, oh shit, what the fuck is that? I've listened to like Metallica and Exodus and
Me too.
Slayer, and then all of a sudden you hear this other thing, right? Cro-Mags, right?
Right.
Leeway, and you're like, oh wait, this is just a little bit different than what those guys are doing. And then it has a name, right? So you start exploring, and then you learn about Bad Brains, and so I really got into the music first. And I was a drummer my whole life. Ever since I was a little kid, I played it in school bands and jazz band and whatnot. And you would jam with kids, and most of the time you jam with neighborhood kids. They're not really trying to make a band at first. But that really happened for me right when I got out of high school. It was like a lot of kids that were trying to, they're like, oh, this band's looking for a drummer. And the first couple bands that were looking for drummers, it was like hardcore and post-hardcore, even in the 90s. Which one, the first band that I was ever in that toured or did anything with Blindside. And that was definitely, post-hardcore. It was kind of screamo, but it was also melodic stuff going on. And I think the instrument playing in hardcore sometimes can be um thought of as simple, and it's not. I think you have so many great performers and so many great musicians, akin to metal, because metal, right, it was always like you had to have the superior guitarist to play all these riffs and whatnot.
Crazy, all the crazy
you know
solos and all that shit.
yeah, but a really good hardcore rhythm guitarist can fuck with all that shit too, but they could also perform. It wasn't like this weird long-haired dude just kind of like jamming out and going crazy. It was like, no, the live portion of this music is just as hard as the sound recording. And when I started, going to shows when I was younger, that's when you really started to feel something. And I don't think I've ever felt as empowered and as fulfilled at a hardcore show out of any other
Right.
show I've been to. You go to a concert and it could definitely do something to your insides, but hardcore, even if you're a mosher,
Right.
it's a
Used to be. I'm semi-retired. All depends.
yeah, yeah. I think I'm retired. I think I've dislocated my shoulder enough times, and
Yeah.
but I definitely had been in those all-out war pits and those hate breed pits, and when I was young, because I moved upstate to be in that band. So in the mid '90s, I was up in Poughkeepsie, New York, and we used to have killer shows up there at the Chance and at the Newburgh Skate Park, and
Yeah.
even out in Middletown, we jumped to. And then we started making friends with kids in the Connecticut scene, and then next thing you know, you're hanging out with the dudes in the Massachusetts scene, and it was so cool because trading shows and flyering shows and just going to show, it was just such an epic time. And I do feel terrible for kids today
Oof.
that that, you know, they're on their phone and like they don't know what it's like to like have a paper flyer
Right.
left underneath the windshield wiper of their car and
Right.
learning about some show and then going to that show and meeting people you never met before that you may never see again. There's no one was going, you know, there was only a couple photographers. No
Yeah.
one was going around, you know, taking man. I mean, I took camera to shows and stuff. I got a lot of film stuff from back in the day, but it wasn't a thing, you know, it wasn't a thing. And that scene, you know, again, why did I get into it? For everything that I just named, you know?
Yeah. It's yeah, I was into that whole metal, you know, obviously the Old Testament, Metallica, Exodus, Violence, and all those Bay Area thrash bands and all that shit.
Yeah.
And I tell this story all the fucking time, and people that are listening probably go, "Here we go again," but I don't give a shit. Um, I went to L'Amour's to see Suicidal Tendencies on the Lights Camera Revolution tour, and the lineup was White Zombie, Leeway, Suicidal,
Wow.
and I had never seen Leeway. I never heard them. I heard of them. I seen their name, and White Zombie, nobody even knew about. They weren't big yet. They were like, you know, looked like a whole bunch of bums in a dirty friggin' smashed up white van. And then Leeway came on, and they busted out into Rise and Fall, and that place exploded, man. And I was just like, what the fuck do we have here?
I,
And
I,
then
I,
the
the more,
next
is it?
day,
Yeah.
bro, the next day I bought Born to Expire because Desperate Measures was recorded but not out yet. So I went and I bought Born to Expire, and the guy was like, if you like this, then you'll like this. And he sold me Agnostic Front, Live at CBGB's, and Liberty and Justice. And from that point on, my life was ruined.
Yeah, I mean, it's so, you know, you go back at that time. That's another thing too, is like knowing your record store guy, right? Like your video, you said, you know, you've been watching movies since the video. I used to work at a video store when I was younger. I used to work at the one in my neighborhood, and then I worked at a Blockbuster, believe it or not, for years. But that was the thing. You had to trust you know, your music guy, right? Like if you were going, unless you went to like one of those bigger out stores that didn't have like a, you know, I remember, what was it, uh Rhino something, what was the one store they used to have upstate when I was living up there for a while in New Paltz, something Rhino, and they used to do like in-store bands would come in and play inside that store. um Rhino Records, it was called Rhino
Okay.
Records. And there was a bunch of those, but like you had to trust someone's opinion, you know, and it wasn't just the album artwork that was going to sell it for you. You know, it was someone being like, yo, you got to go cop this new thing, I just saw it. But you mentioned L'Amour's. I know this band dominated out of there for a while. I ended up going to see them there after the first time I saw them, but I fell in love with, shout out to Biohazard, when I
One of
was,
my favorites ever.
yeah, so when I was in the early 90s, I think it was like, you know, right, like 92, maybe, when Urban Discipline had come out. Those guys caught a tour with Slayer, right? I think it was like Slayer, Machine Head, and Biohazard. But no, I saw, no, that was another time I caught them. There was this tour that they were on before, that was the first time that I saw them. And I remember I went to go see them. I drove to Brooklyn to go check these guys out again because I was just, I'd never seen anything like that. I was
Right.
like, what the fuck is this? You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? It was
man.
such a cool fusion and whatnot. And then I was just, I used to catch them all the time. And then I ended up like, you know, getting cool with Evan, and like starting to see all the people surrounding that. And then you know, Skarhead was another band that kind of had a different swing for me. You know, and there was a lot of different styles of hardcore. You know, there was so many different like
Yeah.
you know, branches to that tree. You know, I mean, you know, kids from New York City would be like, yo, Candiria. I mean,
Right.
Candiria, you play them next to Madball, and those two don't sound
They don't
anything alike.
anything alike.
Oh, well, but
Nothing.
it's still New York hardcore, like, because it is.
Sure.
And you know, it's in that, you know, it has roots to that tree. And I just think that, you know, the energy that those, you know, you can look at a Candiria show and a Madball show, and you look at those frontmen and you're like, these guys are doing similar things, right?
Absolutely.
You know,
I've
you don't.
seen them play the same bill. I seen them play the Black and Blue Ball. I don't know. It was at Webster Hall several years back. They were on the
Yeah.
same night.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, so that kind of stuff. But yeah, shout out. I think Bio was one of the earlier bands that I saw live. that I really was like, oh shit. You know, obviously Madball, AF, but it was Warzone I saw early on. Um, and then, you know, I tell you,
Think of it all shows were always just
Think of It All shows were always killer, but I think I was more fascinated with the newer music that was coming out at that time. And I was just like, man, I would go see all of these different bands, the bands that were on Victory Records, right?
sure.
Like, you know, if I knew Bloodlet was playing a show, I was going to see it.
Yeah,
If I knew Dead Guy was going to play a show, I was going to see it.
sure.
Uh, you know, what was Shut Down when they
Shut
came
down.
out, Earth Crisis.
Victory had a run there, boy.
Yeah, Victory had a run. Yeah, they were really but Hatebreed.
I was just gonna say
You know,
Avery.
yeah, Hatebreed was one of those bands where like I knew one of the first times I saw them, I was like, these guys are and it was a small show. It was some Connecticut show. It was just a small show, but you just knew watching them and it was an energy and it was you know you could not capture it. You could not tell anybody about it. You had to go to the show to
Had to
see it.
be there. Yeah, my daughter, which I'm very glad, in a way, is because her mom loves all the hardcore stuff, and obviously being my daughter, she's surrounded by it. So she went to her first hardcore show a couple of months ago. And
Okay.
yeah, it was like Stick to Your Guns, Cro-Mags, fucking Terror, Bane, like at
Good.
Brooklyn Monarch. Great. I was like, yo, your first hardcore show is a great show. You know, it was packed. It was like probably sold out Brooklyn Monarch. And she was like, I definitely like it live better, like the experience. I was like, so did you
Yeah.
have a good time? She's like, yeah, I loved it. And then she gave me a heart attack because she's like, I would have liked it more if I was able to participate. So we were standing off to the side of the stage. I'm like, oh, you want to start flipping into crowds
Oh
like a
shit.
terrorist set now?
Oh,
Like,
shit.
you're my 15-year-old daughter. Like, I was doing this shit at 14, 14, 15. You're my
Yeah.
girl. Like,
Yeah.
you're killing me, kid.
Yeah, I mean, it is
She
though.
feels it, which I'm
It's
which I'm
theater.
glad.
It's theater. You know, it's like, you can't, we watch movies on the big screen and uh, that's cool, right? You get to see it like larger than life and whatnot. But theater's still going after all these years. There's
Yeah.
still people that are paying for that one show because when you see that one show, just like a live show, there's no duplicate of that.
None.
That band will never play it exactly the way that they played it that night, never
Nope.
experiencing it. And that's never gonna go away. The live concert is never gonna go away. And for hardcore, man, it's such a connected energy again because of the the gray area between band and fan.
Yeah.
It's just such
My
a
stage is your stage. You know these words. Come up and help me
yeah,
out. Like that
yeah,
whole thing.
yeah. It's unlike any other
I
genre.
was just gonna say it's unique. It's unlike anything
Yeah,
else.
these DJs that are getting paid, freaking $500,000 to press a
Play on
button,
their laptop.
they're not letting 20 people come. They're not even doing anything. They're just
No.
uh, uh,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. It's
And
snapping
it's
their
like
fingers, and there's people. It's insane.
yeah,
It's
it's
crazy.
it's crazy that and that's that that's the drugs. Everybody's like, yeah, yeah.
It is the drugs.
We're hardcore. You're raw dogging. You're
Yeah,
raw
yeah, you
dogging.
are.
Yep. Yep. I mean,
Fuck.
that's why the straight edge music scene is so popular in categorically in hardcore music, because of the vibe of what it's like to be sober at a show and to get that high. That's where they're getting it. They're mainlining the music and the show. I don't really know about the straight edge music scene, categorically in any other genres that it blows
Right.
up as big as it did in hardcore.
No, that's a whole other thing. It's
Yeah.
and I'm sober now and all that stuff. But like even when I was ripping and running and going crazy, like there's still straight edge bands that I love, like Youth of Today. Like I'd
Yeah.
be hammered drinking, but put Youth of Today on, I'm still
Oh
loving that.
yeah. Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what
I
I mean?
didn't differentiate like,
No.
that you couldn't have that. Like Earth Crisis was amazing and I really dug that shit.
Yeah,
Like, when I first heard Shy Halud, I'm like, someone had told me a story that those guys I was like, I don't give a fuck.
yeah.
Like I don't care if they're straight edge, if they're gay, if they're this or that, like
Me
they make
neither.
fucking music.
Yeah.
And it's killer and I'm gonna keep pressing the button and listening to these guys. And that's kind of what it was for me. It was all about the music. And then later you'd find out, oh, like that's what the bass player looks like, or that,
Yeah.
and then you get the energy factors. Like, man, the drummer in that band hits fucking hard. Like you
Ridiculous.
don't know that until you
Dude,
go and you see it
I
live.
don't mean to cut you off. I'm just gonna pause this real
Yeah.
quick. Okay, I have an
Yep.
emergency call. It'll be like
Yep.
no time passing. All right, we're back. We're back after a little glitch in the matrix there with work. My bad.
It's all right. It's all right.
Don saw like a personal side of me with work nonsense.
The Matrix is real. The Matrix is
Yeah, bro. So yeah, I mean, the hardcore scene, it's just like no other. And you know, it was this is kind of like I guess a good segue. Like I'm glad that like it was I've seen you a million times at shows, but I don't think we've ever really spoken. Maybe a quick what's up here and there for years. But upstate at the Extreme Music Awards, we actually got to bullshit, and
yeah.
that's when I asked you to come, which was an amazing weekend.
Yeah.
Which was a perfect example. I mean, obviously the people that are some people that are listening and watching were there, but it's just a perfect thing where it's like I never like listen. I had like a little inner fanboy moment, but I'm not going to show it. Like I'm sitting there bullshitting with Gary Holt for a half hour,
Yeah.
just talking about bullshit. You know what I mean? It's like this is fucking cool. Like there's no rock star bullshit with him. At least not in that
No,
environment.
yeah. I mean, I think that that place just kind of sets the tone, and shout out to Valenti,
Oh my god.
and his partners for putting that thing on, because I'm excited to go back up there next year and do it again.
Me
Uh,
too.
it's just a good time, and it's good for the music scene up there, and it's good for all those bands up there that are getting the awards. And you look at it like from an outsider's perspective, and it is, again, it's one of those things like you have to be there to
Yeah.
really understand and feel what's going on. And you watched it was Shadows Fall. They got up there and they're playing shows, and then you had Holt come out, and you had Matt from Hatebreed come out, and it was just like such a cool thing for the scene and for musicians. And
Yeah,
um
Dave from Megadeth is up there, and John
yeah,
from Anthrax, and fucking Brian Shadows. Yeah, fucking
yeah,
great, dude. Just
yeah,
like
really well put together, really a lot of fun, and they do great things up there. Every time I go up to Albany, it's just such a good time, because those guys really, they're just passionate about music, and the events that they do, they show it.
yeah, and Valenti is like a machine, man. Like he's one of my favorite people. I know Valenti for a long time, and he's just what a great guy.
Oh yeah.
And I'm standing behind Jason Bittner, on the stage, and like they're doing this all such, and I'm filming, I'm like live on the Facebook shit for a few minutes, but I'm looking around, I'm like Dan Lilker, Jason Bittner, Brian Shadows Fall, Dave Ellefson, Gary Holt, all on the same stage, like just killing it. I'm just like, this shit, like never in a million years would I ever think, would I be witnessing something like this up close and personal and be able to bullshit with these people, and it's all because of friends in the hardcore scene. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And
Yeah. DIY. Yeah. And they
yeah,
just making shit happen.
yeah,
Yep.
making shit happen, man.
Yeah.
It's fucking brilliant. It's a fucking great time. And I told Valenti, he's because Valenti, he's giant. He always likes to grab me. He's always fucking grabbing me, man. So he's like, it's like, you're having a good time. I'm like, yeah, bro, this is fucking cool. You're gonna come back next year? I'm like, yeah. It seems like you're not giving me a choice. You know what I mean? Of course I am.
Yeah. No, he
So
puts on a great show. Even the pre-show was packed. It was
yeah, the night
packed.
before,
Yeah.
yeah, I was there fucking at doors. And
Yep.
and I was telling Valenti, I was like, I do a lot of road trips and shit. I go to a lot of horror film locations, and I'm all over the place doing this shit. But I told Valenti, and he knows all the shit that I do. I was like, for some reason, I don't know why, I'm born and raised in New York and Brooklyn. Shit. I've never been to Albany. It doesn't
Hmm.
even make sense. It doesn't even
Hmm.
make sense. I'm like, it's like a stupid thing for me to even say, but it's true. Never been to Albany.
Yeah, I was always going upstate. I was always fascinated with going upstate. Like, just I mean, obviously Westchester is not New York City, but you're still surrounded by and close to. And that was always, your escape when you were young. You jump on a train and you go downtown.
Yeah,
You'd be in the city, and it's the concrete jungle. So then when you got the chance to go upstate, it hits so different. It's just
yeah,
so
100%.
crazy. So I started going upstate when I was younger, and then when I joined the band that was upstate, then I would even explore other cities and just meet other people. And I loved going up to Albany because it wasn't that far.
Right.
But then I've been up to Syracuse, I've been up to Rochester, I've been up to Buffalo. Just find all these cool venues and these cool spots, and you could drive for 9 hours and you're still in New York.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. Upstate New York is very weird. It's like North Carolina, then it's like what did Isaac said? He's like we were in the back. I think it was the main, that Saturday night. He's like fucking Albany. I'm like, yeah, I know it's a little different. He's like, it's like Alaska up here. I'm like, all right, maybe it's like Alaska. He's like, yeah, this place is fucking crazy.
Yeah, no, I dig it, man, and I love
Yeah, I
that.
like it too, man. It's fucking
That
definitely a cool
downtown
spot.
area is really nice. Like, it's the capital, so it's got all these really cool buildings.
Yeah.
It's got it's got some real historic stuff that you walk and you see and you feel. It's
Yeah.
got an energy to it. And yeah, we got some good food up there too. I had a good Bloody Mary because I was definitely
A
throwing
little.
down the whiskeys the
Yeah,
one
yeah.
night.
I went to I don't remember what cemetery it was, but I went to because there was time before the main show. It's like I'm not gonna sit in my hotel room for 8 hours, you know what I mean? So I went there. It was like a historic. I don't remember the name of the cemetery, but I went like Uncle Sam's grave is there
Oh shit.
in Troy. It's like the real
Wow.
Uncle Sam. I was like, oh, that's fucking cool. I drove. I visited Customato's grave.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm like I do all that kind of shit. I'm in cemeteries all the time, and like I said, I do all this horror shit, which I don't know if when I was poking around, I had to creep around like your Instagram page for pictures in order to do your flyer.
Yeah.
I came across, and I'm like, huh, interesting, because I don't know if it's the same exact spot, but I went. Were you at Albert Fish's old house?
So when you say that, he didn't have a residence in
I was
Westchester.
at the Wisteria. I went to the Wisteria Cottage in Irvington.
Yeah, so there's more than one place. I don't know if any of them are his residences, but so
Okay,
the because he lived in the city. He was from Brooklyn.
right.
The Gray Ghost.
Yeah.
So there's
Big
there's
man.
Irvington, then there's one across the river in Rockland, and then what the residence that you probably saw the photograph of is
Yes.
John Barrymore's house in on Buckout Road in White Plains. So
Okay.
I grew up next to Buckout Road, like all my friends from high school. So that was another cool thing was like being young and being into horror. We have this haunted road that we used to drive to and do
Awesome.
gags, and it's like a lot of stuff happened on Buckout. Like, and
Yeah.
I do plan on writing a full on Buckout. They did one years ago, and it was just it was hot garbage. It was like they just like
Really.
stole all these ideas from these different movies. They had no soul, and
Right.
Buckout had so much soul. So I was like, man, they really fucked this up, missed opportunity. But um, I plan on doing an official Buckout Road movie one day. But that
That's dope.
house. So John Barrymore, the film actor, the grandfather of Drew Barrymore.
Barrymore.
He used to live in Mamaroneck here in Westchester, and he had his summer home, which was in White Plains, which was like it had a farm and all this stuff, and it was on Buckout. And the the rumors, not too much evidence of things back then, especially when you're working off the books, was that Albert Fish had all these different residences that he would work near because he would be like a handyman during the Depression or even in the 20s,
Yeah.
and he would go up and he would do like farm work, or he would do painting work, he'd do handyman work. So one of the houses was John Barrymore's house that he used to do handyman work. He used to paint at that place. So that's where I had the picture. Was in the
Okay.
White House, which
I
was
was like, let me find out he's all into fucking crazy ass serial killers like I
yeah.
am.
I mean, I definitely,
Fascinated by it. Always have been.
yeah. Albert Fish, yeah, man. He's, the Gray Ghost, he's the original boogeyman,
He
like that.
absolutely is. And that
He's the
if
first.
people don't know who Albert Fish is, just forewarn
Google
you've
him.
been warned if you start digging into his story because
Yeah,
there's
Google him.
really not that many more that fucking
Yeah, he's
twisted.
evil. He's as evil can be.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, and they were never going to catch him. He turned himself in basically by writing the letter
Insane.
to Rosie's family. But yeah, man, that house, and then I think I'm pretty sure, yeah, he's the oldest person. So he was convicted eventually for killing people, but he's the oldest person to get electrocuted at Sing Sing.
I think I knew that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's fucking nuts, dude.
yeah.
There's that whole horror movie correlation with the serial killer stuff, and I'm not sure which one came first for me. I don't know.
Mm.
Maybe, I don't know. I just remember when I was really little, I remember getting into an argument with my sister because back in the day, if you had two TVs in your house, like, you know, that was like something like to talk about. So
Mm.
downstairs we had like the regular, I don't even know what it was, probably 32-inch, but it was a giant fucking, you know, and my parents had like the 12-inch black and white upstairs in their bedroom. And me and my sister would argue, and there was some sort of Brady Bunch, like fucking special or something that my sister
The
wanted.
horror one?
No, it was just a
That
Brady
one was
Bunch.
bad.
Some
That one wasn't bad.
right? There's some Brady Bunch bullshit. And I'm looking at the TV guide and I see an advertisement and it says like the crime of the century. And I see bald women and this fucking crazy guy. And it was like the TV premiere of Helter Skelter.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, I don't know what this is, but this shit looks crazy and I need to watch it. And me being the younger son and like the mama's boy, my mother gave me the big screen TV and she was upstairs. My sister had to go upstairs. So I remember sitting there with my legs crossed, sitting there and watching this. And just from that point on, just fascinated with all of that shit. Like,
Yeah, I mean, we had another close to home thing that made me, you know, kind of fascinated with killings and the mystery of behind all that stuff, which, you know, the movie Maniac came out, right? So
Tom Savini,
Savini,
fucking sick.
yeah. So Maniac was really, it was kind of written about Son of Sam. Uh
Yes.
and you know, Son of Sam was when they caught Berkowitz, he was a Yonkers guy, which
Yes.
I literally shot director's cut like 4 blocks away from where they caught Berkowitz, and right down the street
I know
from where
exactly where you
the
live. I've been there.
yeah, so where the hole is in Yonkers, that's what they used to call it.
In Untermeyer Park.
In in Untermeyer Park, you're a man that knows the business.
Bro,
So
once you finish your point, I got something for you. Go on.
you know, I was always fascinated with Son of Sam, and then the writer that did oh man, I'm gonna burn right now. What's the book? Ultimate Evil. The
Yeah.
writer that did Ultimate Evil,
Maury, Maury,
Maury
Maury,
Terry.
Maury Terry. I was gonna say Maury fucking Povich. Go
Maury
on.
Terry's a White Plains dude, and he was this writer, and he chased Son of Sam. So there was just, you know, so much
That guy
like
went crazy.
between Son of Sam, between, you know, the Buckout Road, which has like 5 different generations of horror stories that come from Buckout Road, not just Albert Fish, but like even the Buckouts and what happened with their trial and the adulterous stuff and the murder, and it was all these different things happening around Westchester. I think I really got into it, and I was just like, oh man, this is right here, because Maniac's New York City, right? Like
Yes.
that's New York. That's why your parents, you know, for a while, like, you can't take the train into the city, and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. You're gonna get killed. They're gonna kidnap you, and so, like, you know, it's all these different. And you just grab your skateboard and you were out. You're like, yeah, fuck that, I'm out.
Yeah, man. That's funny because Danny Boy from House of Pain started this thing. I don't know if you see it, like if you go onto my page or whatever, but there's this whole thing where I do like I've been to 30 different states doing this shit. I'll find like a movie screenshot or a true crime spot from a horror movie, anything like that, and I'll take a screenshot and I'll actually find the actual location physically, and I'll
Mm,
go there and I'll take pictures at the right angle and I'll superimpose the screenshot with my photo and line everything up exactly where it was.
nice.
Okay? So you mentioned Maniac, so my mind goes right to this shit that I constantly do. I'm consumed. It's like a fucking half a sickness sometimes. I'm watching shit. I'm like, it's like I'm watching director's cut. I'm like, I wonder where that mansion is. Like, you know, it's automatic. Like at this point.
Oh, better
But
better than make me. I'll just write it down. Keep going, because I'll tell you
okay,
something in
all
a
right.
minute. But yeah, keep going.
Because that infamous that shotgun scene where
With
Savini
the
gets his head
bridge in the
blown off.
background. Yeah.
There's the Verrazano Bridge, but if there's right before that happens, there's a crane shot, and you see that there's 2 phone booths right next to each other, right? Those phone booths are still there today. They don't work,
No shit.
yes, but they're still there. So there I am. I'm with like my ex-girlfriend, and I'm like, all right, it's a crane shot, so I got to do something. So I had a truck at the time. I pull my truck in. I take a milk crate out of the back, and I take it and I put it long ways on the roof of my truck, and I'm taking shots like to get the right angle. But yeah, those 2 things are still, those 2 phone booths are still there. And real quick about the Son of Sam. It took me like 2 weeks, 3 weeks maybe, weekends and nights or whatever. In the summertime, maybe 2 years ago. I went to every single crime scene exactly where the crime happened. I visited every single grave of anyone who was killed. I went to every single house that they lived in beforehand. I've been in Son of Sam's hallway, taking pictures of his front door, in the building, Untermeyer Park, but all of it, dude. And it's weird because it turned out to be 44 locations. 44 caliber killer.
Wow.
Yeah, it was like just. I'll send you some shit, or I'll tag you, whatever. I'll show you. It's fucking. Bro, I do this shit all the time. I'm like half obsessed. I've been all over the country. Texas Chainsaw Massacre gas station. I'm staying there down in Bastrop, Texas. There's like cabins that you could rent.
No shit.
Yeah, like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Somebody redid that whole gas station. And they have, like, when I was there, the main character who played the Creeper from Jeepers Creepers was there, signing autographs. So you get, like, horror toys and shit. But in the back, whoever bought that place is brilliant. You could buy barbecue in there, just like in the movie. And in the back, there's 4 or 5 small cabins that they built with, like, Wi-Fi and super air conditioning because it's fucking hell hot in Texas. And you can stay there. So I spent the night. It's like you open the door. It's like, I meant to text it, like, why am I here right now? But it's some nerd shit, but it was awesome, you know? Go to the fucking house and all kinds of shit.
I'm more into urbex, like the urban explorer.
Yeah, bro. I walked around. I found myself on the Branch Davidian compound in fucking Waco, which was heavy as fuck.
Wow.
Dude, one of the craziest places I've ever been. But doing all this shit, I got to get out of New York. I got to, like, experience and do.
Yeah, so that not upstate, but back to, like, you know, living close to things. You know, in the 70s, Geraldo Rivera broke up Letchworth Village, and that's in Rockland County, and it was a basically like an asylum for young kids, and they were doing fucked up shit to the kids. Like, and I think he broke up Willowbrook first, which was in Staten Island.
Right.
And he was, you know, he was an investigative reporter back then, and he broke up Letchworth. So Letchworth gets shut down. So by the 80s, Letchworth is like overgrown, and like kids are graffitiing inside there and what. So we would go up to Letchworth Village and break into the abandoned buildings, check stuff out. And then going up to Poughkeepsie, I'd break into like the Psych Center, which was on the Hudson there by Marist, and we go, like, you know, exploring in those places.
Do a couple of fucking quick throwies in there.
Yeah, I did pieces. I did a piece in a couple of those spots with a bunch of my writer buddies.
Yeah.
I would bring when I was living up there, I would bring my writing buddies up from New York, be like, yo, I've got these spots. They're layups. We go, there's no cops. There's, you know, the worst thing we got to worry about is a bum. We'll give him half the sandwich and he'll be chilling, you know?
Yeah.
But so Letchworth Village, because it holds a special place to me, like Buckout, the shots of the band driving, those overhead shots of like that creepy abandoned area, that's Letchworth.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, we went and got we shot it all off Letchworth Village, you know, faking PA in the abandoned village.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah.
That's a personal little big fee. That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. That's fucking great.
Bring it back to the youth. You know, you always gotta have some kind of tie-in to some. I mean, I do, at least. You know, for me, like, as much as writing is like, you know, an art form or whatever, it's also catharsis. Like, I also am like getting a little something out of my childhood out, even if it isn't a story that's, you know, a little bit of adult material, like that film. There's still little tiny pieces of my youth that are in that film.
Of course, and you tap into that shit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why, like, Danny Boy from House of Pain started all this stuff. When he was on tour with La Coconosha, he found the Outsiders House in Tulsa.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then he created the Outsiders House Museum. I've been out there a couple of times with him and this and that. But he started it's called the Delta Bravo Urban Exploration Team. Danny Boy, Delta Bravo, DB, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I always had a fascination with that kind of shit. Like, even like watching like the original Friday the 13th when I'm like 9 years old, I always wondered, I was like, this is a real lake. This isn't like on a Hollywood backlot anywhere. It's probably not called Camp Crystal Lake, but I wonder where this is. And this was way before the internet. And then fast forward, it's like one of the first things I ever searched on the internet was like, where is the real Camp Crystal Lake?
Northern New Jersey.
Yeah, it's in fucking Blairstown, New Jersey. I'm like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I've been there. You know what I mean? So
Yep, me
I've
too.
always had that. And the next thing you know, it's like I'm bullshitting with Danny Boy, and he started this whole thing. I'm like, of all people, like it's just weird. Like you of all people bought the Outsiders house and this and that, and he started this whole film thing. And I'm like the main like New York guy, and I want to try to hit all 50 states. I'm 30 down, 20 left to go. But
Nice.
I take crazy road trips. I bring my daughter, she's 15, go 16-day road trip from Alcatraz to fucking hitting Breaking Bad spots to Branch Davidian Comp, everywhere, bro, all over the place. And it's just, and what it is, it taps into that like child of mine, like inside.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, we're explorers, you know, as human beings. That's something that's inside us. It's like we want to
yeah,
explore things. We want to explore and, uh, see new things. That releases that dopamine energy, when you're
dude, I've had like
finding stuff.
fucking my hair stand up. Like I'm in. They were closed by the time we went there, but the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre house, they moved it like 2 counties over, like 2 towns over. They cut it up and they brought it over, and they made a restaurant out of it. So,
Wow.
so it looks exactly the same, except there's like an outside deck and like a little extension where they have like a bar. So I go there, I'm taking my pictures, and I'm like, oh, it kind of sucks that they're closed. But I hear a couple of people bullshit on the side. So me, I don't give a shit. I go and I introduce myself, and I'm showing the pictures of what I do. Next thing you know, the owners come out. And they're like, oh yeah, go walk around, do whatever you want. So I had for like 45 minutes, like free run by myself in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre house.
Oh, wow.
And I'm just like standing there, and I'm just like, I had like a moment. I'm like, this is fucking crazy, because you feel like you're in the movie. It's exactly the same. Obviously, it's clean, but they put everything back together, like the window moldings, everything meticulous, like ridiculous. He's like, oh yeah, and he's walking me around the owner, and he's like, yeah, this. And the first time I actually stepped into the house was through the bar, and I looked at the guy, and I was like, am I standing where I think I'm standing? And he starts laughing. He's like, everyone says that. He starts laughing. I'm standing exactly where you first see Leatherface, like raise the hammer and crack the guy and then slams the door.
Yeah, the door. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first time I actually entered the house, because I didn't come in through the front. I came in through the back bar area. So the first time I was actually in the original house, I was standing right there. That I was like, what the fuck is happening right now? Just a nerd moment, but I felt like I was 10 again. You know what I mean? Just like that kind of shit. Like, I don't know. People think I'm crazy, like doing all this shit, but it's like, yo, man, just do something because you enjoy it. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean?
They just opened up this. I saw a lot of people. I don't know if they just opened it actually, but I just started seeing it, which is the Scream House.
Really?
So yeah. So
It's
this,
brilliant.
yeah. So that is doing like, I think it was doing like some tours. I don't know if it's going to be a permanent thing or if it was pop-up type situation. But there's this girl that I follow on Instagram. She actually came to the premiere in New York in October, and she's a horror influencer, watching movies and giving you recommendations and whatnot. And she just took a trip out there and went to the Scream House and had like the experience. So I'll have to send you that. You could check it out too.
That's
Maybe
awesome.
on the hit list.
Yeah, absolutely. I was in California last July. My daughter wants to go back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
hopefully the places that we want to go to aren't affected, because that whole fucking insanity. But yeah, she loved it. And actually the Scream House, actually it was Stu's house, was on my list, but it was like 2 hours north of San Francisco. And like I map everything out like meticulous for time, and hotels are booked in advance, the whole deal. So I was just like, I don't know if it's going to be. Plus, it was like the first day we flew all the way from New York. It was a whole day.
I got a far bucket list spot, which is going to be the Goonies house, because I just want to go to Astoria. And
Me
like,
too.
Goonies is one of my favorite all-time movies. So
how could it not be?
yeah, so I want to see where the Goonies lived, and just kind of, that'll be the one spot I'd like to take a pic in that location that you've seen in the movies.
Of course. There was the people that used to own the Goonies house were like not nice people. But then they sold it. And the people now, they have like a big flag in the front, like Goonies welcome. And like you could go there and like you won't have a problem from the owners and shit.
Yeah, unlike the Nightmare on Elm Street people. Like I heard that that's in like Pasadena, and I heard people go there all the time, and the guys like, get the fuck out of here.
I actually I went there and I took pictures, but I got out unscathed, right? But the one who she's batshit insane is the woman who owns Walter White's house from Breaking Bad in Albuquerque.
Okay.
Bro, she calls you a motherfucker cocksucker. Like she has like cones and shit and camera. Like it's like, what are you doing? Like, you know where you live. Like, what are you doing? Like,
yeah, get out. You can't handle it. Get out of there.
right.
You know?
It's
Like
nuts.
you bought it. You had to know, to handle it. It's like, you buy the Nightmare on Elm Street house. That
You gotta
comes
know.
with something. If you don't know what house
Capitalize
you're
on
buying,
that shit.
yeah, if you don't know what you're buying though, you're an idiot, and I don't
Then
feel.
you're an idiot. It's like, yo, once a month, one day, open it up to a fucking tour. You'll make
Yeah,
fucking thousands of dollars.
yeah, yeah. Charge
Just
them to take
capitalize.
selfies at the red door.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That, the Breaking Bad house, all that shit. That's what
yeah,
Danny Boy did with the Outsiders house. He has all the schools and shit on school trips and shit. It's
yeah,
fucking brilliant. The people
yeah.
that did the same shit with the stupid little gas station for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's a gold mine.
Super.
My dumb ass paid all sorts of money to stay there. You know what I mean? It's like, come
Yeah.
on. Yeah, man. Good shit.
Well, yeah, man. It was good, chopping it up, man.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I could talk about this shit for fucking hours. All right, so director's cut available now. All
Yes.
streaming services, iTunes, Amazon. Check it the fuck out. Quick question: are you gonna be? Can we get like merch anywhere, like a shirt or
Yeah.
a nice hoodie?
We have stuff online on it's directorscutmovie.com, and there's a merch tab. So there's one or two designs that are online, and I think the hoodie is up by now, but if not, it'll be up very soon.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'll rock a hoodie. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good shit, man. And you want to throw out like all your social medias and all that to have all the little kids follow you?
Yeah, I mean, mine is pretty simple, just my name at Don Capria. And for the film, it's at Mr. Director. And that's pretty much all of them.
And
But
Mr.
yeah,
is spelled out MISCER.
Misterdir.
ECTOR. Yeah,
ECTOR.
something
Yeah, I
like
think
that.
it has an underscore at the end of it, but
At
you'll
the
see his
end.
crazy face.
Yeah.
You'll see his face. But yeah, so Don Capri is mine, and then mine even has, I think, right underneath my name, you could just click onto Mr. Director's page.
Gotcha.
But that's the film, and then hopefully soon we'll be adding producer's cut to the resume.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, listen, once that gets on and popping, if you want to come back on and shoot the shit about it, you have an open door, my man.
100%.
Awesome.
100%.
This was cool. I had a feeling this was going to be cool between the horror movie shit and the whole thing. I had a feeling we would be able to bullshit like that.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, be safe. Nothing but success to you, brother. And we'll be in touch. And real quick, sorry. Shout out to my sponsor, Generation Records. Follow them at Generation Records on Instagram, located at 210 Thompson Street here in the West Village of New York City. Shout out to Mark and Ron Grimaldi and Generation Records. With all that, be safe, my man, and we'll be in touch.
All right, Jimmy.
All right, bro.
Later.
Peace.